Joining us on the program now from Christian Savings, Dan Mazengarb. Dan, kia ora, good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. It's lovely to be with you.
Now, this is a little bit of a dilemma. Perhaps here in New Zealand, the highest profile case recently being Gloria Vale. Now, I'm not going to get into the theology of Gloria Vale, and there are some problematic aspects about their faith and practice. Having said that, though, they are a faith-based group who were told by the BNZ, take your business elsewhere, and all of the other banks closed ranks and says you're not doing business with us either. A difficult situation to be in, and I suppose sends off a warning for other faith-based groups that might not measure up to the big bank standards.
Yeah, look, it's a fascinating time, Andrew, to be looking at this because it's not just a matter of faith, but it's also a matter of values and beliefs. So you obviously have also moves by the BNZ or other banks talking about debanking petrol stations or climate-related organisations. And so it's really thrown up some issues of human rights.
Yep.
Is it a human right to have access to a bank account, regardless of your view on a certain faith? So it's a fantastic debating hotbed, really, where it comes to human rights and belief. And so we know Gloria Vale was ostensibly rejected based on their legal practice, but of course, underneath we believe that the faith was a driving force. Overseas, we have had people being debanked or cancelled in other settings based on faith. And obviously Nigel Farage, who led the Brexit movement, there was a big debacle over there who was apparently debanked because of his views. And so it is a global issue that people are wrestling with.
And of course, it does happen in different parts of the world where it's difficult or dangerous to be a Christian, but also I understand happening in the land of the free and the home of the brave in the United States. Interesting response, though, from some financial experts in the States of saying, you know what, we're not only going to have a bank for like-minded people, we're going to be overt in our pro-life views, making sure that all of the business that we do is consistent with the pro-life outlook.
Yeah, look, I think it's really interesting, the pro-life fintech that has started up, because of what it shows is that values matter and values sell, and people want to bank with their values. Not just bank, but they also want to invest with their values. And so this is also part of the rising tide around impact investing and ethical investing. People are saying, I want to put my money where it matters and where my values align. And so really interesting to see, a Christian bank. It's not the first bank, first Christian bank in America, but it is the first very pro-life bank. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how they go.
And I understand that, pretty much all of the major banks in the United States, all of them have made significant contributions or charitable donations towards Planned Parenthood, which is the largest operator of abortion clinics in the United States. Now, the pro-life lobby in America is pretty significant. This could mean quite a significant growth in this type of banking operation, perhaps?
Yeah, look, I think you're giving people an opportunity to vote with their dollar, and so it will be interesting to see the reaction of those other banks who have been donating to Planned Parenthood, realizing that actually not all of their customer base believes with their views. And so I think pro-life and other organizations with those values will see an uptick in demand. And we certainly see that at Christian Savings, more and more people saying, well, I'd love to move my money to Christian Savings if it means that it aligns with my values.
It is a difficult balance to get, whilst at the one hand you point the finger and go, oh gosh, isn't it terrible that banks are defunding petrol stations? But yet, as Christian Savings, you're also going to make ethical-based decisions about who you invest in and who you don't invest in. And then I suppose the customer gets to choose which values most align with their own.
Yeah, and look, it's a very interesting space because you have to be careful of your own double standard. I mean, we only bank Christian charities, right? And so
Yeah.
there is a judgment call made on that. And so I think of interest is Winston Peters' bill that he got introduced into Parliament that is looking at effectively an anti-discrimination principle for the banking and other financial services sector to avoid that kind of ability to cancel on each other.
Yeah. Would that create problems potentially for Christian Savings, that you may not be able to, as the legislation proposed, discriminate between Christian organisations and non-faith-based organisations?
Yeah, look, I think it's something that we would watch. There are carve-outs in the bill. So, if, for example, if an act, another act of Parliament requires you to discriminate, and I know that sounds funny, but there are other legal considerations that must be juggled. So, for example, for us, under the rules that we operate, we have to act in the best interests of our depositors.
Yep.
Now, if our depositors are investing on the understanding that we are only lending to churches and charities,
Yep.
then of course we're bound to fulfill that duty to act in their best interests. And so we would have, presumably under the, we obviously don't have any of the final regulations, but we would have an avenue to justify that.
In the meantime, though, of course, Christian Savings does provide a clear alternative for people who are wanting to make sure that what they're investing in is building the kingdom of God, and no restrictions on being able to do that. If people wanted to find out more about the work that you do and know that their investment is going to be invested ethically, christiansavings.co.nz. Dan, thanks for what you do. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Andrew.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.